The fall from the tree, the jungle air was warm and full of strange bird songs. A small alien girl, no older than 6, carefully climbed the thick trunk of a guava-like tree. Her name was Keela. Her skin had a soft blue tone, and her big silver eyes were full of curiosity. Keela had watched the human children from far away many times. She had seen them laugh, chase each other, and climb trees near their farms. She wanted to feel the same fun. But her village told her not to go near the humans. They said humans were dangerous, strange, and unclean, but Keela didn't believe them. Today, her heart was full of bravery. She climbed higher, giggling as the sweet-smelling fruit brushed against her cheek. She reached for the biggest guava at the top, her fingers stretching. For a second, she smiled in victory. But then crack, the branch snapped under her weight. She fell. The air rushed past her tiny body. She hit the hard dirt with a loud thud. Her head bumped a rock, and her leg twisted in a way it shouldn't. She let out a sharp scream, her voice echoing through the empty forest. She tried to stand, but her leg gave out. Pain shot through her like fire. She began to cry, her small hands grabbing at the dirt. No one came, no voices, no help. Only the wind and the soft rustle of the trees. Minutes passed. Her sobs grew weaker. Then footsteps. A shadow moved through the thick green leaves. A tall figure stepped into the clearing. A human. He was dressed in simple clothes, brown boots, a worn jacket, and a canvas bag over his shoulder. His hair was messy, and a small scar ran down the side of his face. He looked rough, like someone who had lived alone for a long time. His name was Jonas. He stopped when he saw her, his eyes widening. Then he slowly knelt beside her, his hands raised in peace. "Hey, you okay?" he asked softly, though he knew she wouldn't understand English. Keela flinched, her eyes wide with fear. She tried to crawl away, but the pain made her scream again. "Don't move," Jonas said gently. "You're hurt." He looked at her leg, swollen, probably broken. Blood trickled from a small cut on her forehead. He reached into his bag and pulled out a cloth. Keela whimpered as he cleaned the wound. "It's all right. I'm not gonna hurt you," he whispered. Keela stared at him. His voice was calm. His touch was careful. Not like the story she was told. Jonas carefully slid his arms under her. She gasped and trembled, but didn't fight. He stood up with her in his arms. She was light as a feather. He could feel her tiny heart racing against his chest. "Let's get you out of here," he said. As he walked back through the trees. Keela rested her head on his shoulder. Her silver eyes stayed wide open. She had never been this close to a human before. They reached a small wooden cabin hidden between tall trees. It looked old, but clean. Jonas pushed the door open and stepped inside. The inside smelled of herbs and wood smoke. He laid her gently on a low bed, wrapped in wool blankets. Then he quickly started boiling water and opened a small first aid box. Keela watched everything, eyes moving from corner to corner. She didn't speak. Her lips trembled. Jonas knelt again. He took her foot in his hand. "This will hurt a little," he warned, knowing she couldn't understand, but still wanting to be kind. She cried out softly when he adjusted the leg and wrapped it in a splint. Then he tied the cloth tight. Her breath was shaky, but she didn't try to run. After some time, Jonas offered her a wooden cup with warm broth. She sniffed it, unsure, then slowly drank. The taste made her eyes light up. He smiled. "Good, right?" She didn't answer. But when he sat down beside the fire, she watched him closely. He didn't lock the door. He didn't shout. He didn't leave her outside. Instead, he took a piece of paper and began to draw. A stick figure of a man. Then a small girl with big eyes. He showed it to her. "That's you. And that's me." She looked at the paper, then pointed at herself. "Keela," he blinked. "Keela, that's your name?" She nodded slowly. He smiled again. Nice to meet you, Keela. I'm Jonas. Outside, the night grew darker. But inside the cabin, the light was warm. And for the first time in her short life, Keela didn't feel alone. The morning sun filtered through the leaves, painting golden spots on the wooden floor. Inside the small cabin, everything was quiet except the soft sound of breathing. Keela opened her eyes slowly. She wasn't on the forest ground anymore. A soft blanket covered her. The smell of herbs, wood smoke, and something sweet filled the air. For a moment, she forgot the pain. Then her leg throbbed again, and she gasped. Jonas heard her. He looked up from the corner, where he was crushing some dry leaves in a bowl. "You're awake," he said gently. "Good." Keela watched him, unsure. She remembered falling, the pain, the man carrying her. She still didn't know if she was safe or in more trouble. Jonas brought the crushed herbs over and mixed them into warm water. Then he dipped a cloth in the mix and returned to her side. "Let's clean this again," he said. She tensed as he touched her leg, but didn't pull away. His hands were rough but careful, like someone used to fixing things without breaking them. He wrapped the new cloth gently and tied it. "There," he said with a smile. "You'll heal." Keela stared at his face. His beard was short and messy. His eyes were brown and tired, but kind. She tilted her head slightly. "Jonah? S?" she said, testing the sound. He blinked in surprise. "Yeah, that's me." She nodded. "Keela," he chuckled. "Still remember. That's a good sign." Jonas stood up and walked to the fire. He stirred something in a small pot, then poured some into a bowl. He brought it to her and offered a wooden spoon. Keela sniffed it. It smelled strange, but good. She ate slowly. It was warm and soft, like mashed fruit mixed with some kind of root. Her eyes widened with each bite. "See? Not so bad," Jonas said. As she ate, her eyes wandered around the cabin. It was simple, just one room. A bed, a fire, shelves with tools, books, jars of dried plants. In one corner was a carved wooden figure of a bird. It looked like something sacred, but friendly. Jonas watched her take in the surroundings. This place, not much, but it's home. Keela didn't understand every word, but she listened carefully. She could feel something in his voice, peace maybe, or loneliness. After a while, Jonas sat on the floor near the fire. He pulled out a flat, black object, a datapad, and tapped it. A map appeared. Then, a picture of strange, glowing plants. Then, a sketch of the guava tree. Keela leaned forward, curious. She pointed at the tree picture. "That's the one you climbed." He said, "Dangerous, huh?" She nodded slowly, cheeks red with embarrassment. He smiled. "Brave, though." Suddenly, a loud knock came from outside. Keela jumped in fear. Her hands gripped the blanket. Her eyes went wide. Jonas raised his hand slowly. "It's okay," he said calmly. "Probably a supply drone." He walked to the door, opened it, and looked out. But the porch was empty. No drone, just the trees, the wind. Nothing else. His eyes narrowed. He stepped out a little and looked around, still nothing. But as he stepped back in, he saw something strange, a scratch mark on the side of the cabin wall. 3 long, deep lines carved into the wood. Jonas closed the door slowly. He didn't say anything to Keela. He didn't want to scare her. Instead, he smiled again and said, "We'll stay inside today." Keela watched him. She didn't understand the words, but she felt the change. The warmth in his voice had cooled slightly. Jonas picked up a small book and flipped through it. Then he showed Keela pictures, animals, birds, stars. She pointed and laughed softly at a picture of a fat alien rabbit. He smiled too. "You like that one, huh?" She nodded. Outside, the forest grew quiet. Somewhere between the trees, eyes were watching. Later that evening, Jonas brought in a small pillow and tucked it under Keela's head. "You'll be safe here," he said. Gently, I promise. As the firelight danced on the walls, Killa looked up at him and reached out. Her small fingers brushed his sleeve. Jonas froze. Surprised. Then she whispered one soft word. Safe. His heart ached for a moment. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know why he helped. But in that single word, she gave him something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He whispered back, yes. Safe. Outside, hidden in the forest. A pair of glowing alien eyes narrowed in the dark. They had found her, and they were not pleased. The forest wasn't silent anymore. Even though birds still sang and wind still danced through the leaves, something had changed. The trees now carried whispers, low, angry voices hidden in the shadows. Far beyond Jonas's cabin, in a hidden valley, the alien villagers had gathered. Their tall figures, wrapped in moss-colored robes, stood in a circle around the sacred fire. She has broken the boundary, one elder growled, his voice deep like thunder. She was seen with a human. The others murmured, some in anger, some in fear. She is only a child, said a softer voice, Rika, Killa's aunt. Her red eyes glowed in the firelight. She did not choose to fall. The human helped her. He should not have touched her, the elder snapped. We do not trust humans. They are not one with the land. They carry poison. And she is already cursed. Rika stood firm. If the curse is real, why is she still alive? Why hasn't she brought death to him? The elder hesitated. Another voice spoke from the shadows, colder than the rest. Perhaps the death will come later. Rika clenched her jaw. She had raised Kile since her parents vanished. She knew the child was strange, but not cursed. Killa laughed when others stayed silent. She explored when others hid. She dreamed of trees, stars, and stories. That wasn't a curse. That was hope. Rika waited until night fell completely. Then, without a word to the others, she slipped into the forest alone. Back at the cabin, Killa sat beside the fire with a soft cloth in her hands. She was trying to fold it into the shape of a bird, just like Jonas had shown her that morning. Jonas carved a small figure out of wood, his blade moving slowly, carefully. His hands were rough, but his touch was gentle. Looked at Killa. You're getting better, he said. Killa smiled a little, holding up the bird shape proudly. Fly, she whispered. He laughed softly. Exactly, fly. Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered. Jonas stood and checked the solar panel control on the wall. Strange. Power drop. Storm, maybe. He stepped outside to check the connection. The forest was still. Too still. Then, snap. A twig broke nearby. Jonas turned sharply, his eyes scanning the trees. Who's there? He called. No answer. Only rustling leaves. He stepped back slowly toward the cabin. But before he reached the door, a shadow stepped into the light. Rika. She stood tall, her cloak covering her body, her sharp red eyes watching him with caution. In one hand, she held a small spear. The other, empty. Killa gasped from inside and ran to the door. Auntie! Jonas held up his hand protectively. You know her? Killa nodded fast, tears building in her eyes. Rika stepped closer but didn't lower the spear. You took her, she said in broken English. I found her, Jonas replied calmly. She was hurt. I helped. Rika looked him over. Why? He shrugged. Because no one else did. There was a long silence. Then Killa limped out and grabbed Rika's hand. Safe, she said softly. Rika looked down at her niece, shocked. Her hard expression broke for a second. You taught her that word, she whispered. Jonas nodded. I didn't want her to be afraid. Rika looked around the cabin, then back at Jonas. They are coming, she said. Tomorrow or the day after, to take her. Take her where? Back, away from you. Forever. Killa grabbed Jonas's hand tightly. She's not ready to walk, Jonas said. She's healing. They don't care, Rika replied. She is with a human. That is enough for them. Jonas clenched his jaw. That's not fair. Rika's voice turned quiet. I know. That's why I'm here. She looked at Keela. Do you want to stay? Keela hesitated. Then she nodded. Rika looked away, guilt flashing in her eyes. Then we must hide her. Jonas stared at her. You'll help? I may not trust you, Rika said, but she does. Later that night, Jonas opened a hatch beneath the cabin floor, a storage cellar. He placed blankets, food, and a small lamp inside. Kella looked down, confused. Hide? Jonas knelt beside her. Only for a little while, until it's safe. She looked nervous. You stay? He touched her shoulder gently. I'm not leaving you, Keela, I promise. Rika stood near the door, spear still in hand. They will not stop. They think your kindness is weakness. Jonas glanced at her. Then, they've never seen what kindness can do. Outside, the trees whispered louder now. The storm was coming, but inside the cabin, for just a moment, there was peace. The sky turned gray the next morning. Heavy clouds rolled over the trees like waves, and the wind whispered through the forest. Like a warning, Jonas stood outside his cabin, hammering a wooden plank across one of the windows. He had seen signs, more claw marks on trees, broken branches, and strange symbols burned into the bark. They were getting closer. Inside, Keela sat on the floor, coloring shapes on old paper with a piece of charcoal. She hummed softly, unaware of the danger building outside. Rika stood near the door, watching Jonas work. Her spear was strapped to her back now, but her expression stayed hard. They will come tonight, she said. Jonas stopped hammering. You're sure? They left the sacred fire cold. That only happens before war or punishment. Jonas looked back at the forest. All this because I helped the child? Rika's voice was bitter. Because she trusted you. And that makes them afraid. Jonas stepped into the cabin and closed the door. Then we don't have much time. He walked over to the trapdoor in the floor and opened it. Inside, the small cellar was now filled with supplies: food, blankets, a water bottle, even a small lamp that gave off a soft yellow glow. He called to Keela, kneeling beside her. Time to go down, little one. Keela looked up, her big silver eyes confused. Why? Bad people are coming. Just for a while, okay? She hesitated but nodded. Jonas lifted her gently and lowered her into the space. Rika passed down a small carved bird. Keep this close. It will remind you we're near. Keela took it and clutched it tight. Jonas looked at Rika. Now what? We stand our ground. She said, you don't know our warriors. They were trained from birth. They fear nothing. Jonas gave a small smile. Good, then they'll never expect me. As the sun began to set, the forest turned quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds stopped singing. Jonas and Rika stood outside, weapons in hand, Jonas holding a heavy wrench from his tool shed, Rika gripping her long, sharp spear. Then the shadows came. Figures moved between the trees, tall and silent. They wore black armor made from bark and stone. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dusk. One stepped forward, larger than the rest. His horns curved back like twisted roots. He wore a dark red sash around his waist. Rika stepped forward. Kirin, the warrior, smiled coldly. Rika, I thought you were smarter. I protect the child. She belongs to us. That human defiled her. Jonas stepped forward. I saved her. She was hurt. Alone. Kirin turned to him. You should have let her die. Jonas's grip on the wrench tightened. She's a kid, not a curse. Kirin's eyes narrowed. You don't know our ways. I don't need to, Jonas said. I only know what's right. Rika raised her spear. You will not touch her. Kirin laughed, cruel and deep. Then both of you will fall. He raised a hand and 5 warriors stepped forward, weapons drawn. But before they could charge, Keela's voice rang out. Stop! Everyone froze. From the cabin, the trapdoor had opened. Keela stood there, her injured leg shaking, but her eyes full of fire. Jonas gasped, "Killa, no!" But she didn't hide. She limped forward, holding up the wooden bird Rika had given her. "I'm not bad," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm not cursed." Kieran stared at her, stunned. "You say I bring death," Killa continued, "but he gave me life. He fed me. He healed me. He smiled." She pointed at Jonas. "He never hit me. Never left me alone." Jonas stepped beside her, gently putting his hand on her shoulder. "Go back down, Killa." She shook her head. "No, I want them to hear." Kieran's face twisted in confusion. "She speaks like them." Rika walked beside Jonas. "Because they listened. Something you never did." The warriors looked at each other, unsure. This wasn't what they expected. Suddenly, one of them stepped back, then another. Kieran growled, "She is broken." "You are all broken." "No," Jonas said. "We're just human, and maybe that's what she needed." The wind picked up, carrying Killa's small voice like a song through the trees. "I am not poison," she said. "I am hope." Kieran looked at the warriors behind him. None moved, realizing he had lost. He hissed in anger and disappeared into the woods. One by one, the other warriors followed. Jonas picked up Killa, holding her close. She rested her head on his chest. "You did something very brave," he whispered. Rika smiled for the first time. "She is no longer a child, she is a voice." That night, the forest was quiet again. But this time, it felt peaceful, not afraid, and inside the cabin, the fire glowed warmly while Jonas, Rika, and Killa sat together, no longer strangers. Just a family beginning to form. The next morning, the cabin stood quiet. Mist rolled across the forest floor, wrapping everything in silence. Inside, Jonas packed a small bag. Food, water, medical supplies, just in case. Killa sat nearby, watching him with wide eyes. "You're leaving?" she asked softly. Jonas shook his head. "No, kiddo. Not without you. I just want us to be ready." Killa looked down. She had spoken to the warriors last night. She had stood up. But fear still sat deep inside her chest. Rika leaned against the doorway, her arms crossed. "They will come back." "Kieran never accepts defeat." Jonas nodded. "Let him come." Rika raised an eyebrow. "You plan to fight?" "I plan to protect." By noon, Jonas had finished strengthening the cabin's defenses. He added wooden spikes near the windows, reinforced the door with metal bars, and set up traps around the clearing, tripwires, noise alarms, and one very old energy shock device he found in a trade pod years ago. Kyla watched him work. "You're not afraid?" she asked. Jonas looked at her and smiled. "Of course I'm afraid. But I'm more afraid of losing someone who matters." Killa hugged her little carved bird tighter. By evening, the forest no longer felt peaceful. Birds didn't return. Even the wind had changed cold now, as if warning them to run. Rika stood with her spear sharpened. She wore armor made from tough bark and metal scraps, tied tight around her arms and chest. Her eyes scanned the trees. "Jonas," she said. "They're surrounding us." He looked out the window. Shapes moved in the distance, tall, dark, silent. He stepped outside and walked to the center of the clearing. Then, raising his voice, he shouted, "If you want her, you come through me." His voice echoed in the forest. No reply. Then the leaves parted. Kieran stepped forward again. But this time he wasn't smiling. "You had your warning," he said. "Heard it," Jonas replied, "and I ignored it." Kieran's eyes burned with anger. "That child is not your responsibility." "She is now." Killa stepped out behind Jonas and stood beside him. She held no weapon, only the wooden bird in her hands. "You hurt me once," she said to Kieran, "but I'm not afraid anymore." Kieran snarled. "You should be." Jonas moved in front of her. "You want to hurt someone, hurt me." But she stays. Rika moved beside him, spear ready. "We will not run." Kieran's warriors began to close in, but something was different. This time, their steps were slower, their eyes uncertain, then crack. One of Jonas's traps snapped shut, shooting sparks into the air. Another triggered a loud alarm, ringing through the trees. The warriors jumped back. Confused, Kieran growled, "Tricks and toys won't stop us." "They weren't meant to," Jonas said. "They were meant to give you time to think." He stepped forward, unarmed now. "Look at her. She's a child. What war are you fighting against a little girl?" No one spoke. Jonas looked around. "You tell stories of humans being monsters, but I saw her fall. I saw her bleed. I saw her cry alone, and no one came for her." His voice grew louder. "So I did." He pointed at Keela, "and she taught me how to be strong again, not with weapons, with trust." A low murmur ran through the warriors. Keela stepped forward again. "Please," she said, "stop this." One of the warriors, tall, with gray markings on his face, lowered his weapon. Another followed. Kieran turned, shocked. "What are you doing?" The gray-marked warrior spoke. "She is right. The child has no hate in her. But you look like the monster now." Kieran's fists shook. His pride was burning. Then with a sharp snarl, he raised his blade and rushed forward straight toward Keela. Rika shouted, "No!" But Jonas was faster. He stepped between them and caught Kieran's wrist with both hands. The two men struggled, Jonas's arm shaking, muscles straining. Kieran tried to push the blade down, but Jonas roared and twisted his arm sideways, forcing the weapon to the ground. Then dash slam. Jonas elbowed him hard in the chest, and Kieran stumbled back. Jonas picked up the fallen blade and pointed it at him. "Leave." Kieran's chest heaved. He looked around. No one stood with him now. One by one, the warriors turned away. Kieran dropped to one knee, defeated. Keela walked over slowly and looked him in the eye. "I forgive you." Kieran said nothing. He just stood up, turned, and disappeared into the woods. The forest was silent again. Jonas dropped the blade and sat down, breathing hard. Keela ran to him and hugged him tightly. Rika stood still for a moment, then gave a nod of respect. "You stood your ground, Jonas," she said. "Like one of our own." He smiled weakly. "Maybe we're not so different." Keela looked at them both. "We're together now?" Jonas nodded. "Yes, always." That night they didn't hide. They sat around the fire, no fear, no weapons, only warmth. Only peace. The days after the standoff were quiet. Too quiet. Jonas repaired the cabin walls, patched up the traps, and cleaned away broken branches. Rika helped rebuild the outer fence using strong tree roots and stone. Keela was smiling again. She picked flowers. She limped less. She even started drawing pictures of birds, trees, and a small human with spiky hair. Jonas, for the first time in her short life, Keela felt safe, loved. She had no tribe, no home. But now she had something better, a family. But peace never lasts forever. One evening, while the sun melted into orange behind the trees, Jonas noticed smoke. Not from his fire, from the west. The deep woods. He stood on the cabin porch, eyes narrowing. "That's not right," Rika joined him, her spear in hand. "The elders live that way. Their rituals never cause smoke like that." Jonas felt a chill. "Is it Kieran?" Rika shook her head. "He left alone." Keela peeked from the window, her eyes growing wide. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest. Then another. Then flames. Fire danced between the trees like a living monster, growing fast, devouring branches, licking at the sky. "Get back inside." Jonas yelled, pulling Keela toward the cellar door, but the wind shifted, and the fire moved faster than they expected. The cabin filled with thick smoke within minutes. Jonas threw a wet cloth over Keela's mouth. "Breathe through this." Rika kicked open a back window. We can't stay here. The fire is wrapping around. Outside, the forest was orange and red. Sparks rained from the sky like burning stars. We have to move. Rika shouted. Jonas grabbed his bag, lifted Keela onto his back, and followed Rika into the trees. They ran through smoke and heat, dodging falling branches and glowing embers. Behind them, the cabin, their home, was already catching fire. Keela looked back and whispered, "No." They didn't stop until they reached a rocky cliffside, a small outcrop where the wind was cold and the trees couldn't grow thick. From there, they could see everything. The fire had spread wide. A giant circle of flame now surrounded the area where the alien village once stood. "It's not natural," Rika said, eyes narrowing. "Someone said it." Jonas looked down. "Who would destroy their own forest?" Rika didn't answer, but Keela did. She pointed to the smoke. "I saw him." Jonas turned. "Who?" Keela's voice was quiet. "The one with the red eyes, not Kieran, another." Rika's face turned pale. Jonas frowned. "There's another leader?" Rika nodded slowly. "Kieran was violent, but he obeyed rules. His brother Varnak doesn't believe in rules. Why wasn't he at the gathering? Banished, long ago. For using fire in sacred lands." Jonas looked back toward the fire. "Then he's returned." Rika looked at him with cold seriousness. "And he doesn't want to take Keela back. He wants her gone." Hours passed. Jonas built a small shelter using a tarp and strong branches. Keela sat wrapped in a blanket, coughing from the smoke. She lost everything again. Rika said, her voice soft. Jonas sat beside her. "Not everything." Rika raised an eyebrow. "You're still here?" "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Not now, not ever." Rika was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I used to think strength came from blades, but maybe it comes from something else." Jonas looked at her. "Like what?" She pointed at Keela, who had fallen asleep hugging the carved bird. "Like not giving up. No matter how many times the world burns around you." The next morning, ash rained down like gray snow. The forest was silent again. But this time, the silence felt broken, like a wound still bleeding. Jonas stood at the cliff's edge. Far below, the forest was black and smoldering, but something moved in the smoke. Rika joined him. "He's still out there." "Then we finish this," Jonas said. "You'll fight him?" Jonas didn't smile. "No, I'll stop him." Rika nodded. "Then I'll go with you." They looked at each other, no longer strangers. Warriors of different worlds, now fighting for the same child. Behind them, Keela stirred awake. She sat up slowly, blinking against the smoke in the air. Small voice whispered into the wind. "We're not alone anymore." The forest was no longer green. Smoke hung in the air like a ghost. The trees were black skeletons. The ground was gray ash. Nothing moved. Jonas walked slowly through the ruins with Keela in his arms and Rika by his side. They had returned to what was left of the cabin. Or rather, the place where it once stood. Only broken wood and scattered stones remained. Keela looked down, silent. Her small hand clutched the carved wooden bird tighter than ever. This was home, she whispered. Jonas knelt and placed her gently on a dry patch of ground. "Not anymore," he said quietly. "But we'll build a new one." Rika stepped forward and picked up a half-burnt piece of cloth. Keela's old drawing of a tree and a bird. She was happy here, Rika said, even if it didn't last. "It lasted long enough to matter," Jonas replied. That evening, they camped near a river where the fire hadn't reached. The air was cooler, the water clear. Rika stood guard while Jonas cooked a simple meal, roots and dry meat. Keela sat beside the fire, her eyes fixed on the flames, but no longer afraid. "Why do people hurt others?" she asked suddenly. Jonas looked up from the pot. "Because they're scared or angry, or because they've forgotten what it means to care." She nodded slowly. "But you didn't forget." "No," he said, voice soft. "Because you reminded me." The next morning, They traveled to the old alien village. It, too, was empty. The warriors had fled after the fire. Many homes were burned. The elders were gone, but in the middle of the village stood something untouched, a stone circle. Cracked but still standing, it was once a meeting place. Jonas looked around. We could rebuild here. Rika was surprised. You would live in our land? Why not? He shrugged. It's where Kila belongs. And maybe it's where I belong too. Kila smiled for the first time in days. Can we plant guava trees? Jonas chuckled. As many as you want. In the following days, they worked together. Jonas cleared rubble. Rika shaped wooden beams. Kila helped plant seeds in the dirt and stacked stones for a small wall. Other survivors began to arrive, quiet at first. Families, warriors, and outcasts. They had heard of the fire, and the human who stood against one of their own. They came with questions, with fear, but also with hope. One by one, they joined in. A new village began to rise. Weeks passed. The air smelled of fresh soil and green leaves again. Small trees sprouted where ash once ruled. Children, alien and human, ran across the fields. Laughter returned. Jonas built a new cabin at the edge of the village. Rika's spear now rested beside the doorway, not in battle, but in peace. And Kila? She had her own garden, her own bed, her own voice. She was no longer the cursed child. She was the bridge between two worlds. One day, a group of travelers arrived from far away, other humans, traders, scientists, explorers. They were shocked to see a human living among aliens peacefully. One of them asked Jonas, "Why stay here?" He smiled and pointed at Kila, who was showing the human child how to climb a tree. "Because this is where I found my reason." The man tilted his head. "Your reason?" Jonas nodded. "To care. To fight. To live." Later that night, a celebration was held under the stars. Children danced. Elders told stories. Food was shared freely. Firelight painted happy faces all around. Jonas sat beside Rika and Kila, watching the sky. The stars were brighter tonight. Kila leaned her head on his arm. "Are you happy now?" He looked down at her, eyes soft. "More than I ever thought I could be," Rika smiled. "You're part of our tribe now." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "Does that come with a cool title?" Kila giggled. "Yes, you're the tree man." Everyone laughed. And as the fire crackled and laughter filled the night, one thing became clear to them all. It didn't matter where you were born, or what language you spoke, or how many times you fell. As long as someone was there to lift you up, you could always find a place to belong.